Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Apple Guide Talks podcast, where we cover a wide range of tech and simplify it for the average consumer. I'm your host, Ralph Shepard, with my co host, Eli Piper.
How's it going?
Join us today as we discuss an app
100,000.
developer who managed to make $100,000 off of selling an icon pack. We have the iPad Air, and really will cover the whole iPad line as it stands of late 2020, and we'll ask the question, who's the iPad Air for? And then lastly, we'll end with, should you upgrade your TV, especially if you're looking to get a new console or gaming PC? So let's get started with a quick and short one with the $100,000 app icons.
Pretty crazy.
Can you imagine that? Making an
I
icon
mean,
pack. So, okay, so backstory. Before we hop into the
yeah,
big picture, with the release of iOS 14, it kind of blew up the idea that you can completely customize your home screen with changing your app icons, adding in widgets and specially designed widgets and all this integration stuff and style it. And then you could, of course, change your back wallpaper. It's definitely not on the Android side of customization where you can move apps anywhere you want on the screen and that
it's
kind
not
of
even
thing.
close to that level.
No. But it still opens up the possibility for customizing your home screen a little more than you used to. Well, a lot more than you used to.
So the whole story is
I'm
this
trying to find
dude
the
took
name of it.
advantage of the app customizations and decided to make these icon packs. One of them was black, one of them was white, kind of monochromatic looking. Black icons with white, very basic looking, almost like line sketches for the app icons. Like the Twitter icon, it's literally a white outline of a bird. The mail icon is literally just the @ symbol. It's a white @ symbol on a black background, and then that's inverted for the white version of it. Super minimalistic, super cool looking.
Hmm. Super appealing for
He,
those who are wanting to make their home screen all clean and artsy.
Super appealing. That's the new thing now, is the whole minimalistic look,
Hmm.
and everything has a purpose on the home screen and making everything fit where it goes.
I'd buy it.
And he wasn't thinking anything of it. He was charging $28 for them. Kind of steep, in my opinion, but not a bad price.
Obviously, people bought
And
into it.
obviously, people bought into it, but not until MKBHD decided to make a video on it where he linked it in the description. And as this creator says, he felt like he was making $28 every 28 seconds. He made over $100,000.
And
One
over
day
six.
after, sales jumped from $6,000 to $40,000. And now they're at over $116,000 from
And I think
4,100 customers. Over
and
4,100 customers.
and that's a true testament to online social media marketing, where
Oh, yeah.
MKBHD or Marcus Brownlee, his video where he featured these app icons have now been seen by over 6 million people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, businesses should pay attention to this because this is huge in terms of marketing. YouTube is heavily underestimated when it comes to business marketing and social media in general.
Because out of those 6 million people, probably around 500 now or 5,000 now have purchased these app icons. That that's
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge statement, even for $29.
Oh, yeah.
That does sound steep, but obviously he made it work.
He made it work. Now, whether this is sustainable, probably not.
No,
I think it's a
I
nice quick injection of cash in the bank. It was a good quick $100,000 in a few days right there. Save it.
I
But
think
it
it was more of a
definitely,
trend.
I think it's more of a trend, and I think, though, more than anything, this shows the power of, like I said, social media marketing that I think businesses really need to focus on and pay attention to.
Yeah, because
This stuff works.
yeah, yeah, but longevity, you're right. I'm not sure how long it will last because think when was the last time you saw a TikTok video of someone's home screen
Yeah,
customized?
exactly. It's a fad. People say, "Wow, this is cool," and then they realize ultimately these home screens look cool. They're not very practical. It's
but see, here's
it's
another
kind of
funny
form
thing
over
too.
function, in my opinion.
Here's a funny thing too. All these people are capitalizing on this idea of being able to customize your app icons now,
Yeah,
using iOS shortcuts, which is Apple's way of
it's a
giving consumers
workaround.
what they want without directly giving them what they want.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but this feature has been around since iOS 12 when shortcuts was originally released.
Hmm.
So it's been
People
a
just
while.
decided to look at it. You know, all it takes is one person to be like, "Hey, look what I can do," and then everyone else jumps on.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely a fad. This is definitely form over function. It's
Mm-hmm.
not very practical. For one thing, you don't get the circle count for notifications in the corner
Oh,
of
that's true.
the app icon. So
That's
that's
true.
one disadvantage of it.
Eh,
Yeah,
it may be a disadvantage, but it may also be a benefit.
it might be, but some people don't want that. You know, I
I
can
mean, for
totally
me
relate.
personally, okay, now that we're talking about designing our home screens, for
Yes.
me, I've when with the release of iOS 14, I completely restarted the way
Yeah.
I look at my home screen. Because for me personally, the way the new app library organizes applications
Hmm.
is the way I used to do it all on one page. So I just trashed all those folders that I made through all those apps in the app library, even my social media apps,
Hmm.
where only the apps that I want real quick access to are on the home screen, and everything else I'll search for. I'm gonna search for everything else to find what I'm looking for.
So
And it also puts my social media apps in the background, so they're not immediately there when I unlock my phone.
yeah.
Because
See,
that
that's what my iPod was. I had my iPod Touch way back in the day. I
mhm.
prided myself on having one page of apps with a whole bunch of folders. It was filled with folders. Everything was in folders. So, as I've gotten my iPhones, they've gotten progressively and progressively less organized. And as you swipe through my home screens, you know, first page is super organized. Everything's right there that I need. Second page is a little less organized, and then the third pages and the fourth page and the fifth page are just like random apps that I'll touch maybe once a month.
Well, yeah, because that's another thing too is how many apps on your home screen right now did you download for one-time use and it's still just kind of
A
hanging
lot
out
of them.
there.
A lot of them are down. A lot of them I'll use like 2 or 3 times a year, but they're
Hmm.
there so that I don't have to re-download them when I want to use them those 2 or 3 times a year.
I have many apps that I'm hanging on to just in case I'm like, will I use this tomorrow maybe?
I have a
Sure.
lot. I have a lot of apps that I download that I keep on my device because I don't want to forget about them.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? One day I might be looking for an app that does whatever this function is, and I don't want to forget that app exists. So it
Well,
just kind of sits there, and I never
yeah.
touch it. But the one day that I need that app, I'm gonna be glad I didn't delete it.
You're gonna be glad you held on to
I'm
it.
gonna be so glad.
But anyway, so yeah, these are the app um, icon customization stuff that you can do. We'll leave a link to his stuff um, in the description below and
Yeah, let's get on more
show notes and
sales.
stuff like that. Yeah, because it is pretty neat what he managed to put together with just a little bit of social media marketing. A hundred
Still,
thousand
by
dollars
chance
overnight.
though, he didn't even try. It was by chance.
He got lucky.
MKBHD happened to mention him in the video, completely
He
by chance.
he got lucky.
Moving
Um,
on though,
we have
um,
a new
this,
iPad
we
that
do, and
finally went shipping alongside the new iPhone.
it did. So we're gonna try and make sense of the new iPad lineup and try and figure out which iPad is for who, specifically between the iPad Air 4th gen, the newest one, and the iPad Pro 11 inch, the second generation, because they're extremely similar, and I'll quickly run down the specs with everything that's different. So the 11 inch, as the name suggests, has an 11-inch Retina display, ProMotion technology, and True Tone.
So
The
that means a faster display.
Yes, it's got a
And
faster display.
some would say, a more accurate colors.
Yeah, you're not really gonna. The average person isn't gonna notice that though.
No, no.
Maybe if they're right next to each other. Um, the iPad Air has a 10.9-inch Retina display, so you're looking at 0.1 inch, which you're never gonna notice unless they're right next to each other. The iPad Pro 11-inch, however, is faster. It's got the A12Z Bionic chip with Neural Engine, whereas the iPad Air has the A14 Bionic chip with Neural Engine.
So the iPad Air may have a newer chip, but it doesn't always mean it's the
It's not. It
fastest
doesn't
chip.
mean it's fastest. No. So both are compatible with Magic Keyboard and Apple Pencil.
That's
The
that
11-inch.
$300 really cool kind of levitating magnetic keyboard
Yeah.
case. I
Yeah.
love that case. It looks cool. Would I
Oh
spend
yeah.
$300 on it?
No.
Probably
No. No.
not.
There's better. I don't. I'm not a big fan of keyboard cases in general. I just don't do that much typing on my iPads.
Oh, I would.
I don't know.
Actually,
It's
recently
because I have the laptop. I prefer the laptop. I prefer the laptop keyboard. I've
but
typed on the Magic Keyboard. If it was between the Magic Keyboard or nothing, I'd go with nothing because personally I don't like the way the Magic Keyboard feels. I'm very snobby when it comes to my keyboards.
mhm.
Um, but the there's definitely better keyboards out there.
Now
Moving on though.
here's one thing that I've been
Yeah,
considering talking
go for
about
it.
keyboards is ditching my MacBook Pro in favor of an iPad and getting a desktop
And
Mac.
that's a decision a lot of consumers are making,
Um,
especially people that want a little bit more power. Is do I ditch the laptop in favor of a desktop with more power and an iPad for when I need to do things on the go?
mhm.
Especially
Be-
as things are increasingly being in the cloud. You get Google Docs, which is
yeah,
heavily
yeah,
used all in the cloud. Even Office is now on the iPads.
yeah. So that's exactly my thought. Is a lot of the stuff that I use, if I were to take my computer, my MacBook on the go,
Hmm.
I could easily get done on an iPad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So the next thing that comes up
but more
is
more on that later.
more on that later. The next thing on the spec sheet is storage. The iPad Pro 11-inch can have up to 1 terabyte of storage, whereas the iPad Air has up to 256 gigs. Cameras are different. The iPad Pro 11-inch has a 12 megapixel wide camera and a 10 megapixel ultra wide camera with a LiDAR sensor. And the iPad Air 4th gen has just a 12 megapixel wide camera. So for all the soccer moms taking pictures, you're going to want to go with the iPad Pro 11-inch. All the ones taking pictures with their iPads, holding it up and blocking the view of everyone else. Although it's mainly the grandparents out there, I think, too. You always see that grandmother or grandma or grandpa with holding their iPad up in front of them at the sports game, filming their kids. So
Yep.
if that's you, you want to go with the iPad Pro 11-inch
So
because
that
you
way
can have
they
that
could
wide
go
angle.
home and watch it on the big screen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, so that's the spec sheet, and it's kind of difficult to tell, which one do you go with? Is
so
it
the
is it
clear
worth it for the better camera, the better processor, and more storage?
well,
You know,
so here through the spec sheet, here are the big differences. On the iPad Pro, you have Face ID. On the iPad Air, you have Touch ID built into the sleep wake button.
mm-hmm.
On the iPad Pro, you have two cameras, a LiDAR sensor, a flash. It's basically an iPhone 11 camera system
Yeah,
strapped to the back of your iPad.
yep,
Compared to the iPad Air, just has one simple camera.
yep.
Um, the iPad Pro is faster. It has a faster display, faster processor. The iPad Air, but that's not to say the iPad Air is slow. It's just a slower
iPad Air is
display.
still very fast.
Yeah, it's close between the two. Um, so the question is, are those shortcomings of the iPad Air and at the same time the cheaper price of the iPad Air, can that win you over the iPad Pro.
So yeah, let's go over price real quick because I kind of glossed over that. So the Wi-Fi model for the iPad Pro 11-inch starts at $799. The Wi-Fi model for the iPad Air starts at $599. So you're looking at about a $200 difference, and it's the same thing for Wi-Fi and cellular, $729 versus $949.
Yeah.
So is $200 difference worth it? I don't know how many people are really taking pictures with their iPads. I think the most I use the camera on my iPad for is scanning documents.
Yeah, I know for me,
And
I can cut out a full camera system on an
exactly.
iPad.
Yeah, I don't need that. As long as it can scan a document, that's fine. I don't need an ultra wide camera. I don't know what I would use that for. I can see though someone who's maybe in construction and that's their work
Yes.
device and they're taking massive pictures of construction site. The LiDAR is good too because you can better use distance, maybe even be able to put measurements on there, and LiDAR will help you more accurately with measurements on a picture.
I don't know how many people in construction would rely on an
I don't
AR
know how many
camera,
are there.
but
I don't know how many are there. I'm not in the construction
or
business,
like
but
an interior decorating,
I
an
think that's a
interior
better example.
decorator
Yeah.
using it to map out how they're gonna design a house
Exactly,
or
being able to
furnish a
map out a
house.
room, being able to use. So the LiDAR sensor is mainly going to be used for AR. So using your interior designer example, you got someone who wants to show a room and then they have apps where you can tap the wall and change colors. I think the LiDAR
Mm-hmm.
sensor will help more accurately represent that on the screen. And that's where I can see that 12 megapixel wide camera coming in. Or, the 10 megapixel ultra wide camera because you can get a whole room of view of a room from very close up. You
Yeah,
don't have to back up. Sometimes there's not room to back up.
because then, so in addition to that battle of where does the iPad Air stand, you
Mm-hmm.
also on the lower level have the iPad 8th gen, which is also
Yes.
starting at 329,
329,
the
so
same price
cheap.
as a Chromebook and faster than a Chromebook. That's a no-brainer right
And it's
there.
cheaper. It's cheaper than the iPad mini.
Yes. Yeah,
The iPad mini is $399.
the iPad mini should not exist anymore.
No, it
It
shouldn't.
served its
I can't see
purpose.
anyone who's going to spend more money to get a
A
lesser
smaller display.
device.
No, no. And the iPad mini just it doesn't get upgraded as often anymore.
I don't even know if
When
they're
was the last
making them.
time the
I feel
iPad
like
mini was updated?
they're still on the fifth generation. The iPad's on the eighth generation, and typically they would update them together. So it hasn't been updated for three
Oh, you know what? They're
generations.
running the same processor.
Are they?
They're both running the A12 Bionic chip.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
The more you know. Learning on the fly.
Yeah, exactly. I
um,
looked it up more.
I don't know. I can't see why someone would buy an iPad Mini, especially as phones are getting so much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I think most
I,
people would rather buy, for example, a 12 Pro Max
you can
over
get
an
a
iPad
plus
Mini.
exactly. You can get a plus sized iPhone, be
Yeah,
roughly half the size.
it's almost the same size. 7.9-inch Retina display. What does the iPhone 12 Pro Max have?
An
Let's see.
OLED.
So the
Oh,
12 Pro Max has a 6.6-inch screen. The iPad Mini has a 7.9-inch screen. That's extremely close.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's
the
a
iPad
little over an
Mini,
inch difference.
this iPad Mini 5th gen that they're selling currently was originally
Hmm.
released in March of 2019. So it's not that old. It's
It's
not
not that
that
old.
old, but it's compared to the iPad, it's not worth it.
It's also compatible with the first gen Apple Pencil. I think that's important to point out. It only
Yes,
has an 8
yes.
megapixel wide camera. It still has Lightning connector, although the iPad Air does too. Got an A12
But
Bionic
that
chip.
was that shouldn't be a big deal for most people, I think, because I think most people have enough Lightning cables around.
Yeah, yeah, for
Um,
sure,
and I think they're still being shipped in the box of the iPads.
for sure.
Let's see.
Um,
So you should be good on that.
in addition, the iPad also is compatible with Smart Keyboard. Not the Magic Keyboard, the Smart Keyboard. Big difference
Yes.
there.
Yes. It's the cheaper one, not the my iPad's floating in the air with the keyboard
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
underneath
yeah.
it.
It's the cheaper one
It's
where it docks right in there.
Yes, it's more of a keyboard dock. So this would make the 8th gen iPad the last iPad in Apple's product line to support the first gen Apple Pencil, to have a Lightning port, and to support the smart keyboard. Um,
Yes.
so that's one thing that Apple's really doing with their, and you notice it a lot with their iPad lines, is features trickling down. You have that edge, quote unquote, edge to edge display, the iPad Pro, which is now being passed down to the iPad Air. And then
Yeah.
everything that the iPad Air was yesterday has now become the 8th gen iPad,
Mm-hmm.
just with more updated processors.
Yep.
So I think that's something. But if you're in the market for, like, if you're someone who wants to get a computer to pay the bills, watch some TV from time to time, watch some
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, I don't know, text your friends, check your emails,
Mm-hmm.
why buy a computer? Just get the
That's
standard
true.
iPad.
A lot of these apps now are starting to work on the iPad. Although if
Mine,
I were gonna do that, I would go for the 12.9-inch iPad,
well,
just
I
because.
I wouldn't even say that's the case either. My mom has been able to fully replace her iMac with I think it was the 7th gen iPad, so the previous
Really?
generation iPad. She's been able to
Okay,
completely replace her iMac with no problems. I
that's
currently have her set
impressive.
up right now where she can of course take her iPad wherever she wants.
Yeah.
She can do whatever she needs to do on her iPad from anywhere. But when she comes home, she has the option to work at her desk.
Yeah.
So I have her set up with a wireless keyboard and mouse, because you can hook up a wireless keyboard and mouse to an iPad now. And then I have
Mm-hmm.
an adapter where she can plug her iPad into a monitor sitting on her desk.
Oh, nice.
And effectively, you turn on the keyboard, you turn on the mouse, those paired to the iPad, you plug in your display. You you have a full Mac substitute there for, I don't know, you get it for $329, okay? Let's
Mm-hmm.
say you add in, I don't know, $100 for some accessories, a case, a keyboard, a mouse,
Yeah.
stuff like that. If maybe, you can always go cheaper with Logitech's Crayola
Mm-hmm.
pencil. I I think that the 8th gen, sure, it may not have the modern design of the Air or the iPad Pro.
Mm-hmm.
It may not have the top specs, top camera, and all that as the iPad Air and iPad Pro,
Yeah.
but it's still faster than most Chromebooks on the market. It's still
Yeah, for
way
sure.
faster than PCs in that price point in the market.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, if you're currently using a computer, will you be able to, on your own, will you be able to adapt your workflow to a mobile device? Because remember, the iPad may be running iPad OS, but it's only like a different flavor of iOS. It's
No,
still
exactly.
more
And
or less a mobile operating system.
I think that's all up to the user and depending on what they do. Obviously, if you're doing a lot of video editing, photo editing, intense video and photo editing,
Oh, then
might
the
be
standard
best for
iPad
you
is
to go
definitely
for,
not for you.
yeah, no, it might be best to go for a computer.
No,
If you're doing a lot of typing and stuff and editing, you could go both ways depending on how much. If you're writing books, you might be better off going with the computer.
hmm
Um, if you're just doing light email, writing emails, some Google Docs stuff, very light things, then I think you could totally replace it with the iPad. And I think that's where that argument comes in. Well, I'll just get a desktop computer which can handle all the powerful stuff and then use my iPad for everything else.
which is exactly what I'm saying for
Yeah.
my case. My
Yeah,
case, I'm
exactly.
waiting for a Mac Mini computer
Hmm.
with higher powered desktop graphics and processors. Because right
Yep.
now, one thing a lot of people don't know is the Mac Mini is shipping with mobile processors.
Yeah. And
Like, the same processor that's in my MacBook is in a Mac Mini. I get no
yeah,
gain from making that upgrade. maybe
Yeah.
a little better thermals. But what I can see is if this here we go back to Apple Silicon and the Macs.
Apple Silicon again.
A lot is resting on the shoulders of this move. Um,
Which
but
we're
if
going to see
Apple is,
next week.
yes, WW or not WWDC,
W-
our third special event in a row comes
Third one
next
in
week.
3 months.
Yep. 3 consecutive months. That's crazy that they've done that.
Yep.
But if they can make a Mac Mini with desktop quality processors and stuff like that, oh, I would
Maybe even throw a
hop on one
graphics
of
card in
those.
there.
Do I?
Maybe even throw a graphics card in there.
No, that's not gonna
It would
happen.
be nice if they could throw a graphics card in a Mac Mini and make it cheaper than an iMac because you don't have the screen, and make it
Oh,
a
yeah,
little
I
bit
see
more
that.
expensive than a MacBook Pro, but a little bit more powerful. I think that would be a huge seller
Yeah,
because a lot of people have monitors already. A lot of
I
people have
have a
mouse and
computer set
keyboard.
up.
A lot of people just want the computer, and I think they'd have to make it a little thicker because graphics cards are big and it's going to need the cooling.
No, well, no,
In
not a whole graphics card. You just put the chip in there.
desktop grade, yeah, the chip,
Just put the chip on the motherboard.
yeah.
You don't
So
need to
even
make
that, they
a
could
whole
even
Mac
keep it about the
Pro.
same size then, probably. And I think that would be a huge seller for them. I think there might be a market for that there.
Hmm.
People that don't want to fork over all that money for a iMac, but people who want something a little bit more than a laptop will provide, than a MacBook Pro will provide, and something that they don't need something portable. They just need something
People who want to go halfsies.
exactly.
They
Yeah.
want mobile, but they don't want to go in to all the downfalls of mobile.
Exactly. Even a
If you get a
Mac Mini.
MacBook, you're gonna run into issues with heat,
Oh yeah.
processing power, and all that because of mobile chips. And
Yeah.
now, and it's important to say that's only to note if you're doing very, very intensive
You,
work like video editing or
yeah, rendering,
photo
3D
editing, a big
modeling.
thing. Yeah,
If you're doing
modeling and
3D
rendering.
modeling, you shouldn't be using a Mac anyways, but
Yeah. But if you are someone who can do a light load on the go on your iPad, and then you can come back home to your Mac, which is another cool thing about the iPads or the iPad Pro and the iPad Air, is say, okay, so for instance, I'm going to describe my desk setup. I have a USB-C Thunderbolt dock that works through either USB-C or Thunderbolt. So that means that I can have a Mac Mini at my desk that's connected to both of my displays and every other peripheral that I have sitting at my desk, every other external accessory.
mm-hmm.
And I could easily unplug my dock from my Mac Mini, plug it into my iPad, and now my iPad is taking over my monitors, and it automatically connects my keyboards from my Mac Mini to my iPad, and
Yeah.
I that's another thing to think about too, is being able to have
Can we all,
continuity, being able to sit at your desk and say, today, you know what? I'm going to use my iPad Pro. Tomorrow, you know
yeah,
what? I think I'm going to use my MacBook. Or I'm going to use
exactly.
my
Yeah.
Mac Mini. And it's a
Because
matter of
you
it's a matter of changing one cable.
exactly
Unplugging your
because
Air,
an iPad is
plugging.
going to be a whole lot quicker to boot up than a MacBook or a Mac Mini. Let's
Well,
also talk about, I
not
think,
that.
it,
So
it
if
will
you're big
be.
into social media, you need a mobile.
Oh yeah, for
Well,
sure.
currently,
If you're doing
once
social
again
media
until
for a
Apple
job,
Silicon comes around.
if you're doing social media for a job, getting an iPad is kind of a must-have for you. Because while you can get away with just using your phone for Instagram and stuff, you need the bigger screen. Especially for things like Facebook and Twitter, where Twitter has some of the launchers where you can have 3 feeds side by side. But can we also, switching topics real quick, can we talk about how the Mac Mini could also be sort of portable? The Mac Mini could be something that you could take back and forth from home to work with you. Maybe on Friday you take it home for the weekend, and then Monday you bring it back. It's not a big computer. You can easily slide it into a bag, and then you get home, you have
That's
your
true.
monitor and set up there. You just
Yeah.
plug it in, you unplug it, you go to work, you got your monitor there, you just plug it in. Especially with USB-C now, you can have USB-C docks where all it is one cable.
Yeah.
One cable and power.
There you go. Well, even USB-C can transfer power. No, not from
Not
MacBook.
not to not that much.
From MacBook Pro, yes. Yeah, I could see that. I
Could
could
you
see
see that
that.
being? I can see that being portable. I can totally see it being portable.
Being you want a portable device, but you don't to be able to take your computer and work
Hmm.
anywhere,
Yeah.
but you don't quite necessarily want to take a MacBook.
Yeah. Now, that's going to be a slim margin of people that would use that because the
Hmm.
caveat there is that you
There's
have to
not
have a
many people.
keyboard, mouse, and monitor wherever you're going. So you're only going to be able to take it to places that are set up for it. For
Not
example, your home or your office. You're not taking it to meetings, you know.
not everyone is like MKBHD who took his whole iMac Pro
Oh,
to what was it,
yeah,
WWDC
he
or
did.
one of their early special events this
Oh,
year,
yeah, he took his whole
or was
setup.
it CES? I don't remember, but
It was one
he
of the big
lugged
conventions.
his whole iMac Pro from the East Coast to the West
Oh, yeah.
Coast.
But I've seen people do that with their PCs too. I went to a hackathon and three people on my team, three of my teammates, they brought their entire PC, their entire desktop setup. They brought the PC, they brought the monitor, the keyboard, and the mouse all in a big box.
Oh,
They come in, they set it up on the table, and they're ready to go. I mean,
sounds like there's a secret hidden market out there.
anything, I think the moral of the story there is anything can be portable if you try hard enough.
Now imagine if someone like Pelican Cases or Pelican Case
Oh, that
came
would be
out
interesting
and
for,
made a case dedicated to carrying around your desktop
yeah.
PC.
See, I'm not sure there's that big of a market for it to warrant mass producing it, but I could see some people
Well,
getting custom made
well,
cases like that.
who needs to call it a dedicated PC carrying case? It's just a different size in their lineup.
Different size.
A padded, indestructible
That could
case to
be
carry around your super expensive gaming PC.
that could be interesting. That could be interesting for people going to maybe competitions and stuff. You
Yeah.
know, practicing in your hotel room.
Oh Lord. I still
I
think it's
mean,
crazy that gaming like that.
esports is becoming such a big thing now.
Mark my words, one day esports will be in the Olympics. There'll
Esports
be
will be in the
more people
Olympics.
watching esports than there will be watching, I don't know, soccer,
Oh, for
swimming.
sure. Well, no, they'll be watching soccer. It'll just be esports soccer. It'll be FIFA.
Yeah, yeah.
They'll be watching Madden.
Yeah, that's what the Olympics is going to turn into. Every
Yeah.
sport, but can you imagine the liability that you wouldn't have to deal with all of a sudden?
Right? No one's getting
No,
hurt.
unless you get carpal tunnel from
You
playing
get
video
carpal
games
tunnel.
all
That's the worst that's going to happen. You're having a pretty good day.
day. Yeah.
Moving on, though, because we're kind of getting way off
Wow. Do
topic here.
you remember when we were talking about iPads?
I know. Where did that go? Let's move on, though, since we've moved so far off of iPads.
To close with that though,
To close with, yeah, let's close with that.
iPads, you have three options. If you want to pay your bills and watch some TV and I don't know, do stuff like that, surf the web, check your email, get an 8th gen iPad, save the money. If you are a pro user, you're doing video editing, you're rendering, photo editing, you want the extra space, you for some reason have a reason to use all those cameras on the back of the iPad Pro, or you're an artist, get the iPad Pro. If you are in
Yep.
between, you don't know if you're quite a pro user for a iPad Pro, nor are you a average user for a standard 8th gen iPad, then try out the iPad Air. Either way, I think you have like 2 weeks to return it if you make the wrong decision.
Just buy a new iPad every 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Buy a new iPad every 2 weeks and return it until Apple says you can't anymore. That'd be an interesting
Play
experiment.
around with it. Just try not to spend more money than you need to. It's a moral of the
Exactly.
story with that.
That's the moral of the story here.
Don't don't overkill it. If you're paying the bills and checking your emails, don't waste your money on an iPad Pro. You're never going to use it. The real
Exactly.
power of that.
Exactly.
Anyways, that's the iPad Pro.
So moving on to the TVs.
Hmm.
What should people know about TV? TV prices have come so far down. I'm looking at a TV right
Okay,
now, Samsung
so
75-inch 4K Ultra HD TV for $997. I mean,
first let's start off of why do you need a new TV?
yeah,
First off, let's look at gaming. If you're buying a new Xbox console, a new PlayStation console, a new graphics card for your gaming PC hooked up to your TV, and you still have an HD TV, um, your upgrade isn't going to do you any favors. Your
yeah,
console upgrade will not do you any favors. If you want to take real advantage of the power in your console, you're also going to need to buy a new TV on top of that. Another reason you may want to buy a new TV is you just purchased your brand new iPhone 12 that can shoot in 4K Dolby Vision, but
yep,
you don't have a TV that can play any of that footage back. And
yep,
I say that, and I'm looking at my spec'd out 2017 MacBook Pro,
right,
which also can barely play that back.
right,
Um, but it's a matter of if you're upgrading one thing, you might as well upgrade everything so you're not left behind, or so you don't have performance left behind. Take advantage of your powerful $500 console. I mean, that's a deal already. Go out and drop the next $500 on a brand new TV and make it an even thousand upgrade.
definitely. Um, the other thing to look at is price of TV. You can get so much TV for the money now. A
But
75-inch Samsung LED 4K smart TV for $747.99.
okay, so there is one problem with TVs
70-inch
though.
Samsung smart TV for $597. These are from Best Buy I'm looking at here.
Hmm. There is a problem with TVs though.
Yes.
The marketing.
Yeah.
They every TV manufacturer markets the same technology different. And
Hmm.
it makes no, even to me, it makes no
Yeah.
sense.
No, they all have their proprietary names and their, marketing jargon that they use.
But even like a refresh rate, some of it, is it a real refresh rate at 120 hertz? Is it
Hmm.
a variable refresh rate at 120 hertz? Or is it going to do some sort of software in the background to make it look like it's 120
Yeah,
hertz?
exactly. Is it like doing something to blend it,
Hmm. To make it look like the frames are sped up.
Hmm.
But you'll find that answer nowhere in the specs
Oh, yeah.
documentation of that product listing.
For sure. And it makes it really hard to figure out, what TV is the best one
Hmm.
for me. And, you know,
I mean, because so for a long time, I've been looking at Samsung's QLED TVs. Specifically, I think it was like their D60 something or
hmm
Q60. But then these new iPhones come out talking about Dolby Vision, 4K
yeah,
HDR stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. This TV
yeah.
only
So they
has
have,
HDR 10 plus.
hmm
What does this mean for my iPhone video?
yeah, right. Are you gonna be able to play it? Who knows?
I mean, you'll be able to play it. Now,
It's
whether
not gonna be
the
Dolby Vision though.
yes, the question is, what will the quality actually look like?
Exactly. But I mean, these prices here are looking really good.
Yeah.
You can get 4K TVs,
Mm-hmm.
55-inch for under $500.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane. You have a TCL 55-inch 4 Series LED
Oh,
4K UHD Smart Android TV for
I
$249 from Best
I
Buy. I don't
strongly
know if that's a good
recommend the
TV or not,
TLC.
but
I
do you?
strongly recommend. Oh,
The TCLs?
yeah, TCLs. I mean, they've got a Roku built in. One less thing you have to think
Yeah.
about, and they're cheap. They're stupidly cheap, and still
This is a
encoded in Dolby
55-inch 4K
Vision.
TV
And
for $249.
yeah, yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. TCL has some nice TVs on the cheap.
Yeah, that's really intriguing, actually.
Now I think before we started this, you were saying, I don't think I've
I
never
don't
even
need a
considered
TV. Yeah, I
upgrading a
was saying
TV.
I
I
don't
think
need a
it's fine.
TV, but for $249, I'll stick that in my dorm
Suddenly,
room.
yeah.
That's
Suddenly it's like,
crazy,
you know, my TV started looking a little fuzzy the other day. I think something's
right?
up.
I feel like once you go to a 4K TV, you can't go back.
Well, not only 4K. I think it's HDR. HDR is the
Yeah,
thing that's gonna win me over. I mean,
yeah,
being able to see the contrast in pictures
hmm
is going, I think, going to be big, because especially you have shows like The Mandalorian and really
yeah,
Disney Plus in general, the whole streaming service, which has a huge focus on HDR content. And even if you're one of the two paying Apple TV Plus subscribers, even
hmm
Apple's like huge on all these big fancy 4K HDR technologies.
hmm
They'll throw up a banner for all that stuff.
yeah.
I was looking at it the other day. They have you know how like when you pull up, do you have an Apple TV?
I do not have an Apple TV.
Okay.
I've never
Well,
needed one.
when when you pull up a listing
Hmm
from the iTunes store, usually at the bottom under the description, it gives like little badges for each of the things it
Okay.
supports and ratings and stuff like that. Apple TV Plus has a whole row of Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, 4K, HDR, like a different badge for all this. And of course, you have Apple, who's big in accessibility. They have their stuff to help the blind and stuff to help
Yeah.
the deaf be able to comprehend the media. Um, but it's everything's definitely moving in that direction.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see where things go
And
in the coming years here.
and as TV manufacturers speed up their production, prices are only going to start dropping more, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think you're going to see prices drop a lot. And I think a lot of these technologies are here to stick around, unlike 3D TVs. Didn't last long at all. That was a dud.
No, forget 3D TVs. 3D in general.
3D in general is, yeah,
It
you hardly see any movies in 3D.
it
I mean,
fell off.
it just wasn't that big of a thing. You know, you had to wear these glasses, and half the time it didn't look good. Half the time it would give you a headache 5 minutes into the movie. The only truly good movies in 3D or anything in 3D was things that were made in 3D, like made for 3D,
Like
where they
Shark
had the
Boy and
things
Lava
popping
Girl.
out at you. Yeah, it was made for 3D,
That's the one
you
thing I
know?
remember from my childhood.
Oh, yeah, me too. But those things were made for TV, things would pop out at you. You
Hmm.
watch a 2D movie that they just converted to 3D, it almost looks no different. In fact, you can take your glasses off and it's going to look a little bit blurry because of the two images, but other than that, it's going to look virtually the
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
And I think that's why 3D failed and kind of stayed in the amusement parks, and I don't think it's going to move out of the amusement parks anytime
So,
soon.
but now the question is, sure, we've moved past 3D,
Yeah.
but we've also made the stride from SD to HD to UHD. Where do we go
You
next? How many more pixels do we add to our screen before we say, that's enough?
UHD squared.
We're gonna start having, well, because they're already selling 12K cameras.
There is there is a point where the human eye cannot distinguish
Hmm.
the upgrading quality and where it just becomes numbers at that point. I'm not sure where that point is. I had read it at one point. But there is a point where, you can have them side by side and the human eye just can't tell the difference between the two of them. So I think it's going to increasingly shift from, how many pixels can we pack into a screen to what can we do with colors to make colors look more accurate.
And more vibrant, yeah.
And more vibrant and more lively, and things look more natural on a TV. I think that's where it's going to start shifting, because colors are something that we can perceive very easily. And I think those are the biggest things you notice. Exactly. I think those are the biggest things you notice are not so much, 4K TV versus an 8K TV. You're going to notice color. You're going to notice OLED versus LED. You're going to notice
even
UHD, you're going to notice HDR, those are the things that I think you're going to notice. I think it's going to start moving towards color and picture quality.
Even though LG
not in
is
terms of pixels,
working on a 8K TV.
Yeah, and I have a feeling, 8K is where it's going to end.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think you'll perceive the difference much above 8K. Unless you have a massive screen.
Not to mention storage.
Exactly. Speed. The smaller the screen, the harder it is to perceive the difference, because you have so much in such a small factor. You're going to notice the difference between 4K on a 70-inch screen versus the difference between 4K and HD on a 32-inch screen.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to notice it a lot more. And it's going to increasingly, that's going to trickle down to 8K and stuff like that. I don't even know what's after 8K, 16K? They go by multiples of...
I think they're at 12K. Because I know Blackmagic
there's
has
12.
a 12K camera out currently.
24K, I think, is after that.
I think that thing can shoot at 60 FPS.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's incredible, but I think... So from a film editor, that's cool, because that gives you so much room to zoom in almost infinitely into clips and stuff.
Without losing quality.
From a consumer and viewer perspective, I could care less if they're shooting 12K, because number one, TV can't play it. Number two, if the TV could play it, I probably wouldn't notice the difference between that and 8K.
No.
Or even that and 4K.
Well, and I think even right now, for most people, if you're someone who just watches TV, you're not someone who stares into the colors and know exactly what to look for in the flaws of your TV.
Exactly.
You're not going to notice the difference between your HD TV until you eventually get a 4K HDR TV in your house, or you walk through Costco or Walmart and you see one of those giant TVs on the wall.
Exactly.
Like for my mom, personally, we were watching The Mandalorian. Fantastic show. Made in cinema quality. And we're watching it on a standard HD SDR TV, standard definition TV. Or standard dynamic range TV. And for me personally, I see those black bars. Or when I say black, I mean gray bars. On the top and bottom of the show.
Yeah.
I see the distortion in the color and the contrast. I see the light flares around darker objects that are not supposed to be there. Like when a ship is flying around in space and there's way more light around those back engines than there should be. I know, for me personally, I notice those things.
Yeah.
But for the average person, they're watching TV.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For the average person, none of that matters. So I think that's another thing too. For some people like me, I want to push to upgrade as quickly as possible. I want to get rid of those gray bars and introduce black bars. But for others, the need to upgrade is not immediate. It's not instant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, you know what?
It's something that can wait,
It's the people who can wait are the people you know what? I'm going to hold on to this TV till it breaks. When it breaks, then we'll look at where we need to go next. For those people, good for you.
Yeah.
For me,
No,
man,
exactly.
I'm like, man, let's go shopping.
Exactly. We were talking before this about Black Friday and how crazy that's going to be with TVs. If anyone's looking to upgrade a TV, Black Friday is the time to do it. For sure. Because deals are going to be insane. You're going to be able to get crazy good TVs.
Especially if they want
They're already insanely cheap. You can already get very good TVs for insanely cheap. I mean, I remember when HD TVs came out, 55-inch TV was over $1,000. Now you're getting 4K TVs for under $500.
And now it's all trickling down.
That's absolutely insane. It's all trickling down.
But also at the same time, I can see them trying to push their TVs while they're handing out consoles. Hey, you just bought this brand new $500 console that you can play your games in 4K HDR at 120 hertz. You know what would go really good with this game console?
Right?
This TV over here.
Oh, I can totally see them do that. Hey, get $150 off a Samsung TV when you buy a new Xbox One X.
Oh,
One Series X. That's a good Best Buy.
Do you buy
Best
an
Buy
Xbox
GameStop
just to get a discount on a TV?
That would be so good for Microsoft and good for the TV manufacturers, because people would be like, heck yeah, I want to do that. I don't know what profit margins.
I don't know how many people right now probably don't have a 4K TV.
Right? And they're not going to upgrade unless they get a killer deal. I don't know what profit margins are on TVs, though. I don't know if they have those margins in order to give discounts like that.
Now, yes. Trashing your old TV just so you can see your colors a little brighter.
Yeah.
Is it reasonable when your old TV works perfectly fine? Probably not. It's definitely not good for the environment in terms of e-waste.
No, if you're going to get rid of your TV, try and sell it.
A little off, but
yeah, if you're going to get rid of your TV, try and sell it or donate it. Don't just throw it out on the curb. I'd probably sell this TV for $150. I could probably get for it. If I was going to buy a 4K TV for $350, and there you go, I got $150 off all of a sudden by selling my old TV.
Well, another thing too is your HD TV may not be a cinema TV, but you may be able to find another purpose for it on a background. Create like a TV, a 4K TV, where you create a cinema experience around it.
Yeah.
And then have just a standard TV for casual watching.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to be overkill like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like for me personally, we have our den upstairs with an HD TV, and then we have our basement where we've tried to create an entertainment set area.
So we got our basement with the big 55-inch TV, and then no one ever likes coming down here, so we all crowd around the small 32-inch TV upstairs.
but see, here's a question: if we suddenly introduce a 4K HDR TV in our basement, will that just replace our den?
Right? I don't know. It all depends on. I think it all depends on your family dynamic and stuff.
Here's another thing too, in terms of upgrading. Okay, you may have a console that can play 4K games. Fantastic. Disney Plus, 4K games. Other streaming services, you'll have to pay $20 a month to get 4K content from Netflix. HBO Max and Hulu do not have 4K content. Shockingly, with HBO Max, I mean, I figured that would be a launching feature, but unfortunately, that's quote unquote still in the works. But there's still a lot of streaming services out there that don't have 4K options.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's going to have to pick up the pace. That's something else that will need to be looked at as 4K grows, because 4K content's growing. All those movies on HBO Max, I'm sure have a 4K option somewhere floating around. It's just the app itself doesn't support it, which is unfortunate for all those people who bought a 4K TV thinking, oh, I could watch all these fantastic movies on HBO Max. Surprise, surprise.
But
hey, You can play back your iPhone 12 footage in Dolby HDR.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, I think that's it for
I
today,
think
though.
that I think that's it for today.
That was fun. That was a lot.
That was good. Oh yeah, for sure.
We made $100,000
Mhm.
making an icon pack.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's still incredible. Overnight, that man made $100,000. We went through the iPad line as it is now of late 2020.
Mhm.
Now, there's a very slight possibility that the iPad Pro stuff can change by late 2020, as of next week, next Tuesday during their special event.
Yeah.
However, unlikely.
Mhm.
Um, and the iPad Air and the standard iPad shouldn't change since those just came out, what, a month or two ago? And then we ended with TVs and should you upgrade?
Oh
But
yeah.
that was our show for the week. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to check out the links in the description below for more on the topics we talked about today and links to our website, appleguideweb.com. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe if you are on YouTube. And keep up to date with the latest happenings by following at AppleGuideWeb on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and find our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
See you in the next one.